Hello, hello, new Wahoos.
Welcome to UVA.
Welcome to UVA.
Welcome, new Who's.
There's so much to be excited about. I don't even know where to start. I would say be excited about the people. I can guarantee you, during your time at UVA, you will make lifelong friends and you will be so grateful for them so often.
I can still remember times where my sorority sisters and my roommates and I went to the lawn to hear a cappella groups. The Hullabahoos or Virginia Gentlemen, lighting of the lawn, streaking the lawn, which I never did, as far as I know, but it's always a great time.
There's so many clubs and opportunities that you can take part in that you may not have ever even considered taking a part in. It's just a beautiful place to spend 4 years.
My favorite thing about the university has definitely been the way that it challenges you. When I was a high school student looking at where to go to school, Virginia stood out to me because it had that academic and athletic rigor.
UVA has such a special place in my heart for really helping me develop as an individual. It really provided me with great opportunities to get outside of myself and support others.
You're going to be surrounded by really smart people who are going to push you socially and intellectually. I guarantee you the person that you come in as will not be the person you leave 4 years later.
Being able to spend time together at ring ceremonies, spend time singing the good old song at a football game are really times where you feel connected, not only as fellow Wahoos, but as a family. It's like an extended family, essentially.
And so you as an incoming first year have something to look forward to in the alumni network. That is something that has constantly blown my mind of just how willing other Virginia alums have been willing to help me along my journey.
It's undeniable that the combination of education that I was able to receive and the kind of community that you get to be a part of once you graduate it's unparalleled in terms of just being able to be successful in whatever you want to do.
I have been on the streets of Berlin as well as the corner of Midtown Manhattan, and anytime I see a UVA alumni, I know I immediately have a friend. They rush up to me, they are so excited. I know that they're always in my corner and they're rooting for the best in me, whether I've met them once or 100 different times. I think this is the best part of joining the UVA community, is knowing that for the rest of your life you will be part of a family of Wahoos that will be cheering you on.
When you're going to the University of Virginia, you're not just getting that 4 years of experience, you're getting a lifetime of experience, and I wouldn't trade anything for any of that in the world.
If I could give one piece of advice to my first year self, it would be just say yes, do the thing, have fun, learn from it, keep moving.
A piece of advice to incoming students would be to get to know your professors.
My one piece of advice, make long-standing connections.
Take advantage of every opportunity that arises at UVA, every one-off club that you didn't think you'd explore, every leadership opportunity that might come your way. Just think about what can be learned from those lessons and get comfortable, because it's really when you grow the most.
It would be not to be afraid to go out of my comfort zone. That could be socially, that could be academically, but for me, some of my favorite classes were outside of my major. Even my major was different. I think I changed my major 3 times before I landed with Chinese. So you might be thinking right now, sitting here while you make your decision of where to go, unsure of exactly what you want to do, or maybe you really know what you want to do. Doesn't matter. No matter when you enter the university, I would really encourage you to take classes that are outside your comfort zone. Try different activities that you've never tried before, because it is this wonderful safe space where you can learn and grow and just discover maybe there's a whole nother side of you that you didn't even know you had.
So just remember, this is your time. Enjoy it and make those memories.
There's no better place to do those things than the University of Virginia. So yeah, be excited about all that. Be excited about everything.
Welcome to the UVA family. Go Who's.
Good luck, and go Who's.
We can't wait to meet you. We can't wait to welcome you on grounds. Wahoo wah, and welcome to our family.
Wahoo wah and welcome. My name is Joshua Stewart, and I'm with the Office of Engagement's UVA Clubs Global Network team, as well as a UVA alum. Go Who's! Congratulations on your admission to the University of Virginia, and thank you for joining today's virtual admitted student celebration. This event is brought to you in partnership with the Office of Admissions. A few housekeeping items to begin. The session is being recorded and will be sent to all session registrants a few days following tonight's program. Closed captioning is also available at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions throughout today's discussion, type them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Our behind-the-scenes staff will be responding to your questions throughout the program. If you have specific admissions questions, please visit the Office of Admissions website A link will be dropped in the chat now. On behalf of the UVA clubs, I'd like to offer a warm Wahoo welcome to our new Who's. Over the course of tonight, you will hear us refer to the clubs in two different ways. There's a more traditional way, as in student activities, but you'll also hear about the UVA clubs, which are a global network of alumni, family, and friends. Our regional clubs offer many programs throughout the year, just like the one here tonight, that allows you to connect locally with UVA. We hope you take some time to visit our website to learn more about your local club and what they have going on. We'll drop a link in the chat for more information. I also want to let you know that many of our local clubs will be sponsoring regional in-person amid student celebrations in April. So stay tuned to hear more about that later. Today's program will feature a discussion with 3 panelists about their experiences at UVA and the amazing UVA community. This discussion will be followed by a Q&A with our panelists answering some of the questions you submitted when you registered. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to our silent moderators from the Office of Admission who are busy behind the scenes answering your questions as they come in the chat. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our special guests to join me. Panelists, you may turn your cameras on. Thank you for joining us today. I will call on you and I would like to do a quick little elevator pitch about yourself. Abby, I'll start with you.
Hi, congrats on getting in. I'm Abby. I'm currently a first year here. I'm planning on majoring in kinesiology, and I am coming from Pennsylvania.
Fantastic. Thank you, Abby. Colin? Colin, you are muted.
You hate to see it. Congratulations once again, everyone, on being admitted to the UVA community. We're so excited to have you in the family. My name is Colin Watts. I'm originally from Winchester, Virginia, which is about 2 hours up the road from Charlottesville. And then I went to UVA, graduated in 2019 from undergrad. I studied public policy and leadership through the Batten School, as well as music through the College of Arts and Sciences. And then I did a 1-year master's in business analytics through the 1-year MS in commerce with McIntyre. And I now find myself in Boston, up in Massachusetts, a little bit colder than Charlottesville. I saw it was a beautiful day today down there, so I'm jealous. But I'm now working at Wayfair, which is an e-commerce company, doing data analytics, as well as doing some social media management for a startup, and actually performing in a band. Can't let that music major go to waste. So performing on the weekends around New England. So that's what I'm up to. I'll pass it on to Sanford.
Thank you, Colin. Yeah, Sanford.
I'm going to unmute first. Hey, Joshua, Colin, Abby. Congratulations to everybody. I know what it feels like to get in as a student, as a parent, and in 16 years, hopefully as a grandparent. So congratulations, it's a great accomplishment. My name is Sanford Williams from the New York, New Jersey area. Grew up in outside the city, lived in the city, in New York City. Went to UVA for law school. Currently live in Pasadena, California. I'm an attorney, and I have a couple of jobs. I currently teach at UCLA Law School, which I love. Not UVA Law School, but it's pretty cool. I also work at the FCC in the Chairwoman's Office, Federal Communications Commission. And the last thing I want to mention really quickly, one reason why I have a tie on, I usually wear a tie in California because people here are more laid back than the East Coast. But I'm on the board of this foster care group, which works with foster children. And I went to this, meeting, ribbon cutting we had today. And one of our people who kind of supports us, Ty Burrell, who's an actor, Modern Family, was there, and he spoke for us, and I hung out with him a little bit. And it's just a cool thing about being in California, to meet with folks like that who are doing good things. And it's another thing that you'll get from UVA, helps put you in networks with folks like that who are doing great things. So that's my quick backstory, and back to you.
Thank you, Sanford. Thank you all panelists for being here. As you can tell, we have a great wealth of experience for you all tonight, and so we're going to get started. So let's start by going around the panel and have each of you describe your time at UVA, including what activities you're involved in, and what really made your UVA experience meaningful. Colin, let's have you go first.
I'm muted. Yeah, I mean, this is such a tough question. How to encapsulate your UVA experience, what made it meaningful, in just a short, brief snippet. I mean, first I can start with the things that I was involved in at UVA that made my experience so special. So right off the bat, like I mentioned, very passionate about music. And so those were the first types of activities that I was drawn to when I first got to UVA. I heard of this a cappella singing group, this all-male a cappella group called the Hullabahoos, when I was in middle school. I was in this all-state choir thing in Virginia, right? And the Hullabahoos are performing there. I said, you know what? I think that I want to be in that group one day. And then I saw them in the movie Pitch Perfect a couple of years later. I was like, all right, I don't think I'm going to make it into that group, but I guess I'll still audition one day. And so then my first year, very first week of classes, auditioned for the Hullabahoos, and got in alongside Josh, actually, which is very, very fun. We overlapped for a couple of years in the crew. I also joined the University Singers, which is UVA's flagship choral ensemble, which was such a cool experience. I come from a pretty small town where there wasn't a ton of arts going on, really. So to be able to join two really high quality music groups, but also just communities, was a very, very special thing to get involved in right away at UVA. And, you know, while those were probably my top two communities throughout my time, also got involved in a lot of other volunteering opportunities with UVA Hospital, with my dorm council my first year, and leadership opportunities in other smaller organizations that I was a part of as well. So that, I guess, is kind of the overview about activities, but it all comes back to what made it meaningful was not just being a part of these groups. It wasn't the concerts, it wasn't the cool things you were doing with that group. It was who you were doing it with, right? The relationships that you are able to build at UVA with such smart, such energetic, such fun people to be around. It really makes UVA special. So I guess that's end of my quick spiel, and I'll pass it on to Abby.
Yeah, Abby. Thank you, Colin. Abby?
Yeah, I completely agree. I've only been here a few months, but I'd say like the most meaningful thing is like the people. And I think that's what makes UVA like so special, is because the people here are so smart, but yet they're not afraid to like have fun and like be social. And it's nice when you can always find someone to go with if there's an event going on, because everyone always wants to go. And I think that's the most helpful thing, is to just find people and let them help you do things that you like.
Yeah, I echo. Sanford, anything to add?
Yeah, a couple things. So first, I went to UVA as a law school student with two kids. And I should probably give my backstory really quick. I'm a UVA law grad. My wife is a UVA medical school grad. We have two kids when we were in law school and med school at the same time. Both those kids went to UVA. My son Sanford was a Hullabaloo in Pitch Perfect, graduated in 2013. My daughter Kiara graduated in 2011 undergrad, 2015 from the law school. My daughter-in-law, Sanford's wife, graduated 2014 undergrad, 2018 from the med school. And my youngest daughter, Nia, graduated 2021 from undergrad. So we're all UVA, everybody got this condition. So that's give you some background. In terms of my time there, I mean, when I was a student, I just watched lots of Nickelodeon and, you know, Blue's Clues and Disney because I had little kids. But in terms of activities on grounds, one thing I did a lot was I took the kids to tons of sporting events because they were free. Now my kids are huge UVA sports fans because of that. So I urge you, you know, even as a grad student, undergrad student, to go to sporting events. Something else I can tell you too, now from my kids' experiences as undergrad, which you all will be and hear more about. My son was a Hullabaloo. My daughter was a Silhouette a cappella group. She formed in Black Monologues, which was an acting group. Another daughter worked in the football office. She was in the gospel choir. So they did tons of activities. And one thing that Abby and Colin both touched on in a very good fashion, I think, what made it meaningful and special was the people. And for us, having a family, even as grad students, it felt like home. So I think that's what makes UVA special, with people and the fact that it feels like home.
Yeah, I echo all that. Definitely a great community, welcoming community. And you can truly find your own people and as many different fashions. So definitely explore, find those communities, find those people that will make UVA meaningful to you. Now I'm going to turn back to Abby and Colin as our student and recent grad representative. So Abby, I know your first year, so still pretty new to the experience. What has been your favorite academic experience so far at UVA?
I was looking for some shadow hours, and I talked to my one advisor, and I ended up doing a cadaver lab with like a real leg, and I could do like laparoscopic surgery on this like actual leg. And I think it was super beneficial because you learn more than you would in any class, because you actually saw it like up close. And it was such like a because I don't like really want to be a surgeon. So like that's not something I'm ever gonna experience again. And it was just so cool to have like the opportunity to even do that. I would say that was my favorite.
Yeah, props to you. You will not catch me in that lab with you. And and that's totally fine, but very, very cool experience. Thank you for sharing. And Colin, how about you? What was your favorite academic experience at UVA?
Yeah, definitely. It's really hard to choose. I know, Abby, you've been there for like 7 months, and I'm sure that you have a lot of other memorable things too. After 4 years there, I clearly didn't know what to study. Like I mentioned earlier, I studied public policy and music undergrad, and then did a 1-year master's in like data analytics, essentially. So I went into UVA wanting to just take as many random classes across the board as I possibly could. And that is what I remember the most. These classes that maybe didn't even necessarily meet my major requirements, but these classes on just really random topics that you could do a deep dive on and build cool relationships with those professors who are very passionate about those niche topics. A couple things in particular. My first year, I took a class called The Viking World, and it was a 9-person seminar. And Abby, you might know this. In your first year, sometimes you take some intro level classes that are like 300, 400 people, econ, psychology, or classic big classes. This is a 9-person seminar in my first semester where it was a ton of reading a week. And then you'd go to class and it was a seminar with this professor who quite frankly looked like a Viking. He was British, so had the accent and everything. It was just wonderful. A lot of cool experiences there, but also studying abroad was one of my favorite things. I did UVA at Oxford for a summer between my 2nd and 3rd year, and took some really cool classes there with some folks who had worked at the EU. So studying public policy, I've obviously nerded out about that experience, and also just being at Oxford surrounded by other UVA students and the experiences that went along with that. It was great. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we'll touch more. We'll touch more on the study abroad and internships and other opportunities later on. So we're going to take a step back. You heard about some UVA community aspects. You heard about some academic aspects. So let's take a step back and figure out that transition. So Abby, as our first year, what was that transition like from high school to college, especially being from out of state? How did you feel at UVA, and where do you find yourself 7 months in?
Yeah. I think the biggest part about the transition is that like I'm from a very small town, and so I'm coming here, I'm taking lectures that have triple the amount of kids that I graduated with. But then you learn and you kind of start to enjoy, like I can walk to the dining hall and I know that I'll see people that I know, and it's really nice. And but I think like one of the most important things is to realize that like it is a big transition. So like in the first month, if you didn't make a lot of friends yet, that's okay. If you're still homesick, that's okay. Like I think as long as you give it time, you'll learn and you'll start to enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that part is huge. I just want to touch on just the patience aspect. I think we can all attest to finding our communities, finding our group of people. May have not come within the first couple of weeks, but with UVA, you have that opportunity to really, whether it's build your own ilk or simply join. You have so many opportunities where you can find sort of that loving group of people, and as you heard in the video, lifelong relationships. So don't be sad or deterred if things go, but just keep your head down and keep on going. So thank you, Abby, for sharing that. Colin, I'll pass it over to you. How was your transition like? Obviously, you're in state, so a little bit different, but talk about that process as well.
Yeah, definitely. To preface, similar to Sanford, I come from a family that UVA through and through. Both my parents went to UVA. My older sister went to UVA. My uncle went to UVA. My little sister's now at UVA. Both of my younger cousins are now at UVA. So I grew up a massive UVA sports fan as well. Going to football games, going to basketball games growing up was just 2 hours down the road, and I have a lot of fond memories of that. So, making that transition from growing up around a lot of folks who loved UVA, but not really knowing what it was like outside of the athletic side, I thought it was going to be a pretty natural transition, right? I'd been to Charlottesville a ton. I had all this experience. I knew all the athletes who had been in the past, Joe Harris, all of Tony Bennett's old players. I knew all that stuff. But the thing is, what you don't expect is, like Abby mentioned, you go from potentially a small town. I came from a small town, and you were then thrown into the sea. You, in high school, you're probably a big fish in a small pond, right? And then you go to UVA, and there are a ton of smart, talented people. You're like, oh snap, I am in a whole new league that I don't know how I'm going to build my brand, how I'm going to build relationships. Who am I, right? Like that, I think that is something that I remember. What is my identity? That was the biggest challenge, I think, first of all. But what helped to get through those first types of questions in my mind was just say yes. We'll talk about a little bit later. There are so many extracurriculars and clubs at UVA that want to welcome you into their arms, and it feels so intimidating as a first year in your first week to sign up for that email list or go to that audition. But the best decision I made was saying yes in the beginning. And even though, right, I got into Hullabaloo's, I got into the choir, and even so, it's like, oh, I found my group, I found my people. It's not going to happen overnight. Like Josh said, it's gonna take patience. It's gonna take some time to figure out who you want to spend your time with and who you want to be in this new world, a new community, because you are really starting fresh, right? So yeah, it's an overwhelming transition for sure. So don't be alarmed if that happens to you as well.
Thank you, Colin. Sanford, so you not only experienced UVA as a grad student, but as you gave us the entire your entire family has experienced UVA. So what is your advice for the parents out there, and can you tell us what it was like being a parent?
Okay, it's a great question. I have a few things. So first, I'm a huge sports fan, and my son and I went to the Final Four in 2019 in Minneapolis with a bunch of UVA friends. We were there, we won the championship, never forget it. And my daughter, my oldest one, said, "Daddy, what's more fun, watching UVA win the championship or like me being born? Like, what's top of your list?" So I was like, you know what? I gotta think about that. Yeah, that's kind of difficult. But I say all that, I'm a lawyer, never give her a straight answer. But I say all that to say that as a parent, some things I'll never forget 2019, being on ground for most of the games and going to the Final Four, graduations, going to activities and seeing folks like every hullabaloo from 2009 to 2021 grow up, like Colin and Joshua. But overall, what I like about being a parent was, one, you get a supportive environment. No matter what your child or student does, they'll be supported. It prepares your students for life. I work with tons of students, tons of different spaces, whether it's law school or at my job at the FCC. And UVA grads are definitely prepared to be independent and to hit the ground running because of how they're trained with self-governance and other things that they experience on grounds. As a parent, another thing I love is lots of ways to stay engaged. UVA clubs is an awesome way to stay engaged, whether it's a local club or on grounds. UVA Parents Fund is a great way to stay engaged. And lots of parents groups, such as OAAA and Hullabaloo's even have parents who are involved and engaged in what they do, which is cool. In terms of advice, I have a few things I wrote down. One, I say stay involved and engaged. I thought my kids went to college, I'm done. No, it wasn't. I was more involved and engaged, and it helped them and it helped us. But I say stay involved and engaged, but don't hover. Don't be too engaged. So stay involved and engaged, but don't get so wrapped up into their lives that they can't do what they need to do and be independent. Give them space and let them grow. I'll also say it's not easy. Colin and Abby both mentioned it. You're not, a big fish in a small pond anymore. You have tons of smart folks around. You're there for a reason because you can do it, but it's not easy. You'll encounter obstacles. When those things happen, encourage your student. Don't give them the answers, but encourage them and encourage them to seek help. A lot of times students haven't had to seek help before, so encourage them to seek help. And the last thing I would say is really enjoy it. I mean, some of the most fun times in my life, and I was a parent for like almost 14 straight years. It's kind of crazy. So it's longer than most of you. I hope none of your kids are in school for 14 straight years, but enjoy it. It goes by quickly. It's a great time in your life. It's a great time in their life. It's a great time to bond, and you create memories that you'll never forget. And finally, I saw the admission rate of the folks who got in this year. It seems like it's getting lower and lower every year. It's harder to get in. Man, that's something to celebrate. So celebrate these accomplishments. A lot of victories, so celebrate the victories of getting in, enjoy this, and celebrate your victories with your student as they go through school, because it's going to be a great time and a great ride.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sanford, for all those tips and that advice. We're going to pivot a little bit and switch to Sanford touched on it, Abby touched on it a little bit too, Colin, I believe as well, is this student self-governance piece. It is a big role at UVA in terms of students feeling empowered by the institution, by their peers to really push for change, whether that's within the community or whether that's within administration. They are given a voice, they are given a platform, and they are really, again, really empowered to sort of make things happen. So I want to touch on that piece. Colin, can you describe a time of student self-governance you experienced at UVA or what it means to you overall?
Yeah, absolutely. When I think of student self-governance, I think, to take a step back, I know that at a lot of other schools that you go to, you will have professors who are I guess like the liaison for different clubs, or in the student government life, there are professors or folks in the university administration who kind of hover a little bit while students are making decisions or part of these organizations. At UVA, that is absolutely not the case. You are given the space and the autonomy really to make an impact on the community however you want to make it. I think personally, right, I was in the Hullabahoos, I feel like I've mentioned it 17 times. Go Google it after Spotify. We'll have to do, maybe Josh and I, we can do a duet later. That was a joke. We will not do any such thing. But student self-governance, right? So I was the president of the Hullabahoos, and in that group, right, we didn't have a professor that was guiding us or telling us what to do. When I was president, I was booking concert venues. I booked a concert tour in Southern California through the UVA Alumni Club Network. I was preparing budgets. I was planning album recording. You're doing all of these things that I think at other schools you don't have the opportunity to do, right? Like, it is essentially, honestly, in that position, that is what prepared me most for being in the real world. So student self-governance, you have the autonomy to learn on the fly, take control of the clubs and organizations that you care about, and it's going to prepare you for life down the road. Because a lot of the lessons I learned in leadership positions in college, I still apply every single day. And some of those positions were honestly harder than what I'm doing now in regards to getting things done.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. Abby, as our student, do you have anything to add? Or
I don't really have much experience in self-governance yet, but like I know it, you can tell that like everyone is very trusting of the students here. Like if you want to do something, you can do it. If you want to make your own club, you can. If you want to like set up a fundraiser for some cause, you can. And I think that's, like you said, I think that's something that's going to be super beneficial once you get into like the real world, because like you had to figure out how to do everything yourself.
perfect. And then Sanford, any last words from a parent perspective and also as a student perspective? How have you seen your kids embody that self-governance piece? And then how do you think of it?
For sure, and I'll give one quick example. My son was also president of the Hullabahoos, and y'all could sing if you want to. But anyhow, my son Sanford, and during the time he was president, he had to negotiate, which means that he got his dad to do it, the deal with the folks at Pitch Perfect to get the Hullabahoos involved in the movie, going back and forth. So of course he used me for free legal advice, but he had to do that, and also keeping track of the Hubba House and holes in the walls and stuff like that. And we'll leave it there. But anyway, he had a lot of stuff he learned about self-governance that he learned by running the Hullabahoos, being the president of the Hullabahoos. But I'll say in general, to the self-governance piece, I guess there was a recent vote where the single sanction option was added back to the self-governance portfolio at UVA. So that was no longer, it was an option for years, was no longer an option, now it was voted recently as an option. And I thought it was cool, not to debate the merits of single sanction or not, but I thought it was cool, and think it is cool, that students at UVA had the ability to govern themselves and make those decisions. It gives them self-determination, and this responsibility permeates everything they do on grounds. And it definitely makes them ready when they come into the workforce. And I've seen it, from my own children, from these fine folks here. I've seen it with Abby when she graduates, I'm sure. The ability to hit the ground running and to be responsible and able to jump into situations and be confident in their ability to lead something because they've done that on ground. So I think the self-governance part, something that's unique to UVA and something that's very useful and beneficial and helps folks when they get out into the real world, so to speak.
Thank you, Sanford. All right, on that note, we're going to switch gears a little bit and answer some of the questions that came in during registration. Thank you, panelists, for your thoughts with those pre-questions. We've had so many great questions, and unfortunately, we won't have the time to get to them all tonight. But our colleagues will drop some links in the chat about orientation and housing. And at the end of this presentation, we will provide resources and list other opportunities to connect with UVA and ask questions. So the first question that I have, actually, before we go, our behind-the-scenes moderators are still answering your questions live. So in the Q&A box, so continue to submit. And thank you again for our silent moderators for the great work that they are doing behind the scenes to answer your questions. Clubs and activities were by far the most popular topic in the pre-submitted questions. UVA has over 1,000 clubs on campus that cover just about any interest you might have. We'll drop a link in the chat for our student activity site where you can find a list of the current clubs and more information. Colin, the first question I have is for you. So we had a question, as UVA is a bigger school, how hard is it to find community? For Colin, I'm a music student also. I've been thoroughly involved in my high school's orchestra. I want to continue this at UVA. Did you find you had enough time to get involved while balancing schoolwork? And then how difficult is it to join, I guess, music clubs?
That's a great question, and one that I wondered at your stage of life as well. So first of all, let me open the chats that I have. It was a good meaty question. So I want to make sure that I have this up in front of me. Where are we? Okay, well, I can start with in terms of the balance, right, between coursework and things like music or any other extracurriculars that folks may choose to get involved in. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, that is part of what I learned from college is time management, because you have your coursework, which is a necessity, and any parents on the call just know that is always number one. But there are often times when you're passionate about a club or an extracurricular that you know is also making a positive impact on your life, making you happy, or something that will help you in your career down the road, maybe even just as much as your major, right? So it's definitely tough, you know, between going to classes and having rehearsals or any other work that you're doing as part of those extracurriculars, but it's definitely worth it. I'm not seeing that in the chat. Thank you to whoever direct messaged me with that specific question. How difficult is it to join clubs? So for a lot of things like orchestra, singing groups, there are auditions for those types of groups, but there are a ton of outlets. If you are passionate about music, there will be an outlet for you, right? In terms of orchestra alone, I did a bunch of research. My mom wanted me to join the orchestra out of high school because I played the violin, but I wanted something new and different. So if you're a violinist, do your thing, live your truth. My mom would be proud of you. How difficult is it though? You know, there is the Charlottesville Symphony Orchestra that has spots reserved for students. So if you're extremely passionate and you want to join the orchestra scene, there's that route. There are also student-run orchestras that maybe are a little bit less of a time commitment, maybe doing more like modern arrangements as well. There are also smaller string quartets you can join. There's the group called the Radio Music Society that is like a string quartet student-run group that they just do pop arrangements. One of my friends here in Boston was in that as well. So it's maybe difficult at first. You see, once again, you enter the sea of all these opportunities, and honing in on what exactly you want is maybe tough, but whatever you're passionate about, like Josh mentioned, there are thousands of clubs. If you're passionate about it, there is an outlet for it. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
No, that was great. Also, Colin, as a music major, I will second the fact that there are tons of things to do in the music department, and there's so much room to create in the music department. They are always looking for new ideas. So whether you join a club or whether you make your own, you have that autonomy again. So we mentioned the 1,000 clubs. We're going to get to more questions, but I do want to ask about the student activities fair. Now this happens in the beginning weeks of school, lined up on the lawn. There's every club you can imagine. So I'm gonna turn it over to Abby to talk a little bit about that experience. I'll turn it over to Colin as well. But Abby, talk about what the activities fair is and what you got from it.
I will tell you, it completely like surpassed my expectations, because I wasn't originally told that, okay, the club fair is in the amphitheater. So I went there, but then you keep walking, and then they had a whole nother section in part of the lawn, and then they had a whole nother section like at this other spot on campus. Like the amount of clubs they had, it's crazy. You have every single type. You have so many types of sports, so many music things. Like if you want some sort of like a cooking club, or like a black women club, like they have literally like every single thing that you can imagine. They have it, and it's just so nice. I get like 6 emails a day from clubs. I sign up for so many, and so definitely do not worry if you're scared of not finding one you want, because you will.
Colin, anything to add there?
The activities fair is organized chaos in a nutshell, but it is your first opportunity to see what UVA has to offer. Definitely go and say yes to things. You will see the ski and snowboard club. That was one of my first memories. The ski and snowboard club at the activities fair, they wear like bathing suits and snorkels, so it's quite misleading, but that's, I guess, their marketing strategy. I don't know. So they draw a quirky crowd because, you know, their marketing strategy is hey, and it works. So it's organized chaos, but it's your first chance to employ that say yes mentality and to find the types of communities that you want to be a part of. So yeah.
Awesome. I always say the activities fair, if you don't find something, like Abby said, you can totally create it, right? That's why there's so many clubs, right? It's not 1,000 clubs that the administration put together. No, it's 1,000 clubs of unique student perspective and unique student wants and proactiveness. So it is a little overwhelming, but it's also super fun, and it can be a good time just signing up for 15,000 things. The next thing you know, you have 15 emails every morning that you were probably moved to spam because you don't want to unsubscribe, but we could talk about that later. I want to move on to another question that was submitted. What effect does Greek life have on campus life? How many people are a part of it? Colin, do you have any experience, or can you share a little bit about Greek life on UVA campus?
Yeah, so Greek life at UVA, I was not in Greek life myself, but my dad was in fraternity when he was at UVA, and my little sister is now in a sorority at UVA, as well as both of my cousins as well. So had some exposure to that world. I think, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think about 30%, 25% of the UVA student body is involved in Greek life. And that's a great outlet for folks to find their community. The process, 30%, amazing, crushed it, still got it. Some things that I will say for a high level overview. So we've been speaking about a lot of clubs and activities. The activities fair is like the second day on grounds. Like you will move in and the activities fair is maybe a day or two later. Greek life, sorority and fraternity rush doesn't happen until January. So the start of second semester is when that happens. So if you're going into UVA and you're thinking, oh, Greek life is how I'm gonna find my community, I would definitely encourage you to still go to the activities fair, find some other communities that you want to be involved in, because one, rush doesn't happen until the spring, and it's great to just have multiple communities that are going on at the same time. So I know that my little sister has so many friends through her sorority. They have a lot of cool experiences that they do together, a lot of philanthropic opportunities as well. So yeah, I hope that speaks to it. Josh, anything else that would be helpful to add?
No, I think that's great. I think you covered it. I think the big piece is that, yeah, rush doesn't start until second semester. So you have that time to develop those relationships, you know, before maybe diving head first into Greek life. So thank you for sharing that. Another question that came in: how accessible is campus research to undergraduate students? I'll share a little bit first from my experience. I was a psychology major as well as a music major. And Gilmer is, I think, like one of the oldest buildings on grounds at UVA. And throughout the hallways, there are these bulletin boards that share tons and tons of research opportunities as well as internships. So that's a good place to look in terms of, as well as the chem, bio buildings as well. They just have bulletin boards. So it's fairly accessible. You're professors are also your best friends in this world too. So many recommendations. Some of them may even have their own labs. I was a part of a behavioral lab at UVA for psychology, which was super fun. So there are ways, and it's pretty accessible in terms of research. Does anyone have anything else to add to that? You do not have to.
Yeah, I can jump in really quick, two things. First, to the fraternity question really quick. My son pledged a fraternity, and I have to say that the fraternity brothers he was with, and a couple of hullabahoos, was a great source of comfort for him and a great community. My daughters did not, but they also had the same sort of community. So whether you pledge or don't pledge, I mean, whatever you do, you can still find your folks and find your group. So I think it's fine to pledge and fine not to pledge. You can still find your people. In terms of research, my son was pre-med, he's a physician now, and he was able to do research at UVA, and the research he did helped him get into medical school. And there's tons of opportunities. So if you're interested in research, not just in medicine, but anything, whether it's legal research, sociology, biology, chemistry, it's all there. So I urge folks to look into that and take advantage of a wide range of resources for research we have there on the grounds.
I'll also mention a cool opportunity that I partook in at UVA. It's called the University Internship Program, UIP. And basically, you did have to have a GPA minimum of a 3.0. However, you got to sort of put yourself in this application process that paired you with basically what you had interest in. At that time, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And so my internship was actually working at the Juvenile Justice Department in Charlottesville as an intern probation officer. I did that my entire 4th year. It was a blast. And again, all came at the hands of UVA. It's an awesome opportunity. People have done incredible things through that program. So I encourage you to look that up. I do believe you have to be a 3rd year to start, but they might have changed the policy since I was there, but it is a great program and internship opener. So now we're going to move on to another question. And I think I'm going to turn to Abby. So do you engage much with professors outside of class? And what opportunities are there to interact with faculty on grounds?
Personally, I haven't really engaged with them much, but I know a lot of people do. There's so many office hours. And I know every professor, like if you tell them, oh, I can't make it at this time, they'll definitely like change it for you. And then there's also a lot of TAs that are super helpful. So if you're worried, like if you're struggling in a class, there's definitely, you can make it work. There's definitely ways. I mean, you can probably like tell them to meet you at a dining hall, and if you swipe them in, they'll probably help you with some work. I've had all of my professors have been super friendly, super nice, super willing to, because they want you to do well. So I would definitely say that's not something to worry about. They're super helpful.
Fantastic. Colin?
I'm not gonna lie, as a first year, it can be hard to build relationships with professors in entry-level classes. I found that to be very challenging in larger spaces. As you progress through your time at UVA, or even in some of your smaller, maybe discussion sections your first year for those large courses, that is such a great opportunity to build relationships with professors. And professors, I find there's a reason why they're in academia, and Sanford, you might be able to speak to this as well, is because the energy of being around students is what inspires them and what makes them want to do their job. So I would have professors that would hold holiday parties at their home, and you were traveling with fellow students to their house for a home cooked meal by your professor, or different events on grounds as well with professors that were always willing to hang out. I built a really strong relationship with the professor that led the UVA at Oxford program to the point where we would go to lunch. A lot of times when I got back to Charlottesville, we would get lunch fairly regularly. So those relationships are a little bit easier to build as you get more, I guess, ingrained in the community and in some smaller classes with your major. But yeah, that's one of my favorite parts about UVA is the relationship that you're able to build with these super smart, super cool professors.
Sanford, do you want to hop in?
Yeah, I do that with my law school students now, so Colin's right on point. But I also have to say, like my kids, my daughter Nia, who's a musician, Professor Carson is still one of her best friends. So whenever she needs help, she goes to him. Lisa Spidell, who did gender studies, taught all three of my kids. She's still one of their best friends. George, whose last name I forget, who's in music department, he's still friends with my daughter Kiara and my daughter Nia. So there are tons of folks, and it's easier. I think it's easier as you get as the longer you're on grounds. But those relationships are really great for the professor and for the students. And UVA again is a special place because every place doesn't have those type of relationships. But I urge you as you go along, students coming in, and Abby too, as you go along, take advantage of those opportunities because they're pretty cool.
Yeah, I always love to throw this out there. So UVA has a program built in called Take a Teacher Out for Lunch. And you can actually take any professor out to lunch on UVA. So you do not pay for it. You simply just schedule a time with the professor and you get a little purchasing card. And it's a great way, again, to develop those relationships. Super important. And to Colin's point about the bigger, 101 level classes, I think professors at the end of the day, to Abby's point, really want you to succeed. So going to see them at any time, whether you're passing with flying colors or whether you're not, I think it's the intention that they look for, and the want to pass and the want to succeed, and they want to help you do that. So definitely meet with your teachers when you can, and use that. Take a teacher out for lunch. It's a fun experience. All right, we're going to turn to another question. How did you decide what to major in? Does anyone want to take that on first? Colin, I'm going to turn it to you.
I was gonna say I might be the only person. Well, Abby, I think you said that you declared kinesiology, right? Yeah. Well, okay. So I guess I'm not the only one who's declared a major on this call. Also, Josh. Anyway, I'll stop talking about that. So, like I said earlier, I went into UVA having no idea what I wanted to do with my life. Still don't. But I went in knowing that I wanted to have a diverse academic experience. So, like I said, I took classes all over the place. My first semester schedule was that Viking class I mentioned. I took a music theory course. I took microeconomics. I took intro to public policy. I took all these classes, none of which qualified for the same major, right? And then it was through taking those diverse courses that I realized I kind of want to keep doing just a diverse set of things. And the Batten School, which I mentioned earlier, which is what I majored in undergrad, the Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy, the curriculum within that program was very wide ranging. There were statistics courses, there were econ courses, there were ethics courses. So it had a wide breadth of things. And also then I just loved music, and the music major seemed doable as well. So I had built some strong relationships with those professors and in those entry-level courses I took. So that's how I decided on those two. But I know that other people have a lot of very, very similar stories. If you go into UVA knowing what you're going to study, I think that's more rare than the alternative, for sure. So don't be afraid if you are sitting there right now thinking, oh crap, I think I like my calculus class, but I also like my choir. That is a-okay. And that's what I love about UVA, is the opportunity to pursue each of those passions and see which one you want to carry forward. So stop there.
Thank Colin for sharing. I think a big takeaway there is definitely take classes outside of the norm, really explore. UVA has so many quirky courses, I guess I have to say. One of the most famous courses on on grounds is this Dracula class. And it's offered to seniors, or I guess I should say fourth year. And everyone loves it. Usually has nothing to do with their major, but everyone takes the class as a way to just learn about something new. It's always full, there's always a wait list. And Stan Stepanek is a great professor. People love his time. So that just gives you a little glimpse of the many offerings, many varieties of courses. So definitely dip your toe in a lot of things. And like Colin said, it is totally fine to change, switch up your major throughout the process. Do not feel like you have to be tied down or that you lose time. UVA is a place you can explore to the fullest. So be sure to do that. Okay, so I'd like to finish up our Q&A with a little lightning round. Audience, our panelists have not seen these questions. So yeah, they're just gonna go with their first gut instinct on these. All right, So everyone can turn on your mics. So I believe we can see everyone at the same time. Perfect. All right. First question is, favorite place to eat on grounds or the corner?
Photos.
We got one for Bodo's. Colin?
I'm going Roots Natural Kitchen on the corner. Ate there three times a week, honestly, fourth year. Too much.
Abby?
I like the Virginian
Okay, nice,
on the
nice.
corner.
Oh yeah. All right. Favorite place to study or favorite place you did study?
I like anywhere outside. Our campus, the grounds is so gorgeous, and I think anywhere outside is just so nice.
The lawn.
The lawn.
When
Yeah, when it's
the
nice
weather's
out.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Similarly, the rotunda, if you are able to get a seat in the rotunda, especially one near a window where you're looking over the lawn, you see all of, I mean, literally what Thomas Jefferson built. I don't know, it's pretty cool and inspiring to study in there for sure.
Yeah, mine was Clark. I spent a lot of time in Clark. Some people call it a dungeon, but you know, I enjoyed my time in Clark. Last one piece of advice that you want to give to all these admitted students and their families here tonight. Colin.
Like I said, sometimes I said this earlier, sometimes it is worth it to put aside your homework if you're really passionate about something else that you're doing or a community you're involved in. It's worth it to pursue those. My GPA definitely could have been better at UVA, if I'm being honest, but it's because I decided sometimes to prioritize some of these other experiences, whether socially or part of the activities I was a part of, that I think have served me better now than having maybe a point higher on my GPA. Or I won't say a point. I swear I didn't do that poorly anyway.
Stanford.
I'd say try new things, expand your horizons, and enjoy the ride.
Abby.
That was gonna be mine. Try new things.
Perfection. Well, panelists, thank you so much for your time today. I know everyone has benefited from hearing your experience and your expertise about the UVA community and what UVA has to offer. You're now free to turn off your cameras and mics now. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you. Now, before we close out today's program, I'd like to direct you to more opportunities to connect with Wahoos in your region. As we mentioned earlier, many of our regional UVA clubs are sponsoring local in-person admitted student celebrations in the coming weeks. These will be held between April 13th through the 27th. And great opportunities for you to meet alumni, friends, and families in your area, connect with other admitted students, and learn more about the UVA student experience. You may have already received an email inviting you to one of these, but you can also see the link in the chat or scan the QR code on your screen to learn more. The Office of Admissions also has some great opportunities for you to connect with UVA as you make your decision. Check your UVA My Portal to find resources such as Days on the Lawn events, which will be held in April, and admitted student tours. And if you're unable to travel this spring, please check out the virtual experience sessions that are also found through the UVA My Portal. That is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and go Hoos.